Well, good, blessed afternoon, beautiful, precious ones. I will not be up here long. I don't think. I don't think I will. As usual, I hope and pray all is well. I am up here to say some things that the majority of people, I say about 95% of people just don't want to hear. They just do not want to hear it. There are so many people with blinders on. I just started up my laptop. I got to do some research, and since I got this little cheap plan, it runs when it wants. It comes on when it get ready. Move, it's about like a turtle, But I can wait because I'm not paying anymore because I rarely even use my laptop. Oh God. I was on another social media platform and I just listened. Sometimes I think, where have I been? There'd be so much news that pop up, things you don't know that's going on. I talk about me because I'm the biggest example that I know of for surety. You take like before salvation. I remember this was before I met my husband, and I was in some difficult times. I had moved out of that duplex until it was a right nice apartment. And I had, finally gotten a job after hitting rock bottom. I've had so many twists and turns and so many different roads I've been on that it sounds like I'm just lying. Like I'm not even, sometimes I even think, my God, did that really happen, And, but then I have family members that know. I have a grandson that worked for me in my last restaurant, and he talked about how it was millionaire status, and he's not the only one that recognized that. But I'm up here to talk about money and not so many things. But getting back to when I moved into this apartment, I met this lady. She was from South Carolina, and I can't say that me and the man was dating, but we were seeing each other, from time to time. And I was talking to her about him, and this is coming from a young lady that's saved, and she's been in relationship after relationship, and she met this man that's supposed to be a pastor, and but anyways, I just be, from conversations, from people talking on social media, and from, some that I know, I just have these thoughts, and I just can't seem to help myself from talking about it, So anyway, she said, get you some limes and something else she said, and put it in your freezer. It was roots. She was talking about roots. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work, And the reason why it didn't work was because I was a child of God and didn't know it. I was set apart and did not know it. There are so many people, you are set apart. There are things that's not working because you are set apart for His purpose. For His doings. Where is that? Let me read to you what Jesus Calling book say for today. I got all these books, and I normally don't read but two. If I can see it. June the 18th is what I read. You are my beloved child. I chose you before the foundations of the world to walk with me along paths designed uniquely for you. Concentrate on keeping in step with me instead of trying to anticipate my plans for you. If you trust that my plans are to prosper you and not to harm you, you can relax and enjoy the present moment. I'm going to stop right here because now I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a precious one that is saved. And they are shared with me that, they're getting ready to start traveling some because they laid back, don't care to do much, But they recently went on a trip and, flew to another state and enjoyed it. And, because see, another thing that I like to express is there's nothing wrong with enjoying life. Enjoy life. And so I said, there's something else that was said. And I said, well, whatever floats your boat, because with me, I don't care. I want to go to Louisiana. I just want to go there for seafood. And on the things I like to do is I like to, get together with loved ones and, and whether it be family or friends. I enjoy being around people that don't know the Lord, they got a good heart and stuff. And, they good people. They just don't know the Lord and they're struggling, I love being around people like that. But people that's shown up blinded and they think that they into a lot of stuff. They have no idea that it's the devil that's showing them this stuff. I'm not going to be, if I be around let me calm myself down. If I be around anybody and I pick up, that's where they coming from, adios amigo, I got to go, called spirits transfer. Now I shared something, I remixed something, but when I do stuff like that, I do it for a reason. To point out, we need to know the difference between light and darkness. I can't be, if I'm looking, the Bible talks about Jezebel. Now I'm talking about somebody that's trying to look all beautiful, where they're looking all beautiful. I'm not talking about, worldly, because that's, my goodness, it's a lot of people, they into, all these rings and stuff in different places and all these tattoos, and man, a real lady, you're not going to mark your body up like that. What man want to look at a lady and you all marked up like that? I tell you, I hope and pray that young lady, because I don't want to. I'm not a basher. I'm not a basher. It's just that, I just can't help myself when it come to pointing out, certain things, hoping and praying that the blinders come off, cause it's some precious. Well, I say beautiful, precious ones, but I ain't stupid. I know everybody is not. And when I say beautiful, I mean the spirit. I'm not talking about the outward appearance, I'm talking about the spirit. So I enjoy saying beautiful, precious ones. And one time I said I was going to stop saying it because I know everybody is not beautiful and everybody is not precious. You're precious until some people are precious to the devil until he can no longer use you. And then you're not precious to him anymore. But those of us that's a child of God, we always precious to him. We're going to always be precious to him. And he going to never leave us. He going to never forsake us. I'm going to finish reading this. It's dark. I just got my ring light on. Your hope and your future are rooted in heaven, where eternal ecstasy awaits you. Nothing can rob you of your inheritance of unimaginable riches and well-being. Sometimes I grant you glimpses of your glorious future to encourage you and spur you on. But your main focus should be staying close to me. I set the pace and keeping with your needs and my purposes. And where I decided to read this came from, I said, whatever floats your boat. And this morning I was thinking on that, and I can't help it, y'all. That DoorDash, she just pops up, y'all, because a lot of people boats is floating, and they're trying to float their boat. Like I say, whatever floats your boat. But it's a lot of boats that's going to be floating, that's going to sink. And that's the truth. Those boats going to sink. Now, like I say, there's nothing wrong with enjoying life, traveling, laughing, long as you know who your Father is, long as you know who you serving, long as you're not in no sin. I like to talk about the sins that'll send us to hell. Everybody's sin. I'm sure. I can't, well, yeah, I was going to say I can't think of what sin I sinned today, but I did. And I know I sinned yesterday. And I'm going to tell you what this sin was that I sinned yesterday. See, this is why, and I was talking to, someone that I know day before yesterday. And I shared with them about when I fell into sin and how I have a friend that she likes to listen to R&B. I don't. And shared with my friend day before yesterday, what she already knew, why I don't listen to it. So I was on a social media page, not YouTube, and it was a bunch of, older people, I say my age, and some, may have been a little younger, some a little older, and they was playing that music, and I remembered this man that I really and truly loved. I love this man. I love this man. And it's rarely will you hear me talk like this, because it don't float my boat no more. Only Jesus is what floats my boat. And what I do for my hobby, for my pleasure, that's what float my boat. My goodness. So anyways, this was yesterday. And the song played. And I just let it play. And my mind went back to us. He's married now, A few years ago, before he got married, he told me, he said he was coming to live with me. And my husband had passed, and I could have said yes, because I remember, when I tell you that man made me, he made me, I'll just go on and use the word happy. But he almost destroyed me. I could have went to hell. All that pleasure. Open up the car door for me, get paid, will give me money, made me laugh, and a few other things, God, I love that man. So yesterday, I listened to this song, and I let my mind go back. And you know what it did? It threw me into almost a deep depression. That's what it did. Remembering all that stuff, And I'll share something else too with you. It's how I'm weary of some of these pastors and some of these churches. He would come to church with me. We talked about the Lord. I thought the man loved the Lord, and he probably did, but he was not a good man. The things that I went through, he was not a good man. He had a good woman, me, and, the good that he did, the bad that he did far outweighed the good that he did. Because one thing, he was color struck. I was not his cup of tea, but I have qualities. I have things that's going on with me that, if you don't stay, you'll come back. I put it to you like that, But anyways, so I remember we went. He went to church with me, and the same pastor was, he was married, and I came to church. I was not self-conscious. I was not conscious of my, a little cleavage showing. I watched, because it's a certain way I don't care to talk, So I had a little cleavage showing. And and I was in Florida. It had to been a little chilly or something. And he said, Sister so-and-so called my name. He was looking down at my cleavage. He said, it's a little chilly out there tonight. And I had no idea what type man he was. All I knew was he used to be on drugs, and that man could go. The Holy Ghost used that man. I'm here to tell you. But God was not through with him, because he was cheating on his wife in the church cheating on his wife in the church with his cousin. So I didn't know this at the time. So when I came with my friend, and I'll be honest and transparent, I was married. I committed adultery, I thank the Lord my husband never left me. And I know he told me all the time, he's glad he didn't leave me, because I stuck with him till death did us part. I never left him. I took care of him. I did things for 25 months when he couldn't walk, when they gave him 3 days to live. Then they gave him 3 months, and they finally gave him a year. The doctor that gave him a death sentence died before he did. I stuck with him to the end, And I could have, got what coins we had and got things we had and left him, but I didn't do it, See, love is, some people, they say, I love you, and it's just a bunch of words. But there's action behind love. That's why, some can say, I love you. I say, I love you too, because I do. But I know they don't love me. I know there are people that don't love me. But it's okay, as long as I love, as long as I don't have any hate. So anyways, so when I came to church that night with him, and he had been there a couple of times before, the pastor looked at us. He got up and left his own church. Then he come back none the whole service. And then that's when I found out that he was in there fornicating or committing adultery in his church. And let me get off of that. Yeah, let me get off of that, because that is not my talk, But I'm so thankful that, because you got some people, you maybe one or two might come and listen, and you into some sin, and you don't want to be in that sin. See, I was having pleasure in that sin starting out. But after a while, man, that was disgusting. I mean, that pleasure and stuff, and then end up costing me. It end up, but I tell you, the Lord gave me a miracle. When I said, God, that's how I ended up in this city right here. The Lord orchestrated, certain words I get tongue tied, I can't say. But anyways, the way things worked out is, I said, God, I can't leave this. I had an antique shop. I said, God, I don't put this on this man's property. I don't put that. I can't leave that. I tell you, God done gave me some miracles in my life. He have given me some miracles in my life. And when he healed this eye, and I kept messing up. But I couldn't, I waited and I waited and I waited, because he don't heal me so many times from a few things, And I just say, I'm going to go on and have this surgery, I'm going to go on and have this surgery. But I want people to know that sometimes you may have to have surgery. Sometimes you may get sick. Sometimes things may happen. But God is real. He is real, and he will never leave us. He will never forsake us as long as we don't leave him. But there's so many people, they seeking out the worldly pleasures. And the Lord is contentment. As long as we have everything that we need, there should be some contentment. There should be some love for people to be saved, for people to be set free. But I know people don't care nothing about. People want to hear curse, profanity. They want to hear what married people do. Drama. Gossiping. Bad stuff. You got some people up here, they're making all that money off of bad things that has happened to people, And there's some ministers, 2 of them I used to listen to. And now their whole talk is about pleasing your wife and your wife pleasing you. It's all about sex and nothing about SOULS. It's ridiculous. I'm going to say this and I'm going to get off of here. I went to this church some years ago, and I like, because you gotta love, but when you like somebody, I like the pastor, I like the first lady, I like some members in there, and it's just like, I had a tooth pulled and I couldn't go for a while. And then, I for another reason, I didn't go. I started going to the flea market on Sundays. So after I finished doing what I had to do, I went back, and some of them main ones, 2 or 3 of them main ones that's in there, they used to smile at me and talk to me and hug me, all of that. They treated me like I was a leper, like I was a leper. But I liked the church, so I just kept on going. And so one time I heard, I had heard maybe about 2 or 3 times the pastor say, get to know your sisters and your brothers. Because, see, I'm a loner. I don't, I speak, I'm friendly and all of that. But I've been saved a long time. And even before salvation, I know how people are. I know how people are. My God, I know. And some of the worst ones, may God forgive me, is in the church. They in the meeting places, because that's what they are. They're meeting places, Church is supposed to be like a hospital, It's supposed to be like your home, full of love and peace and joy and teaching lessons and stuff. What church supposed to be. So anyways, they said, they say, invite people to your house. You ain't got to cook up no filet mignon. I'm just saying that, But they say invite people to your house. And I heard it for like about the 3rd time. So I said, I'm going to do that. So I invited the pastor and his wife first. That's who I invited first. Do you know they didn't even have the decency to respond? They just totally ignored me. Well, one could say, well, how do you know that they know? I know. And they didn't respond. But I kept on going. So I did, I invited a lady and her mom and her, some of her family and stuff. And we had good fellowship, But I just could not continue. It's so many reasons why. Now, there is no perfect church, not nowhere. But if the Holy Ghost is in there and it's all about souls, it's not about membership. It's not about packing the house. Now, they ain't bug you for no money. It was a lot of people walked out, didn't put nothing in there. They never, that's one thing I can say. It wasn't a money church, But, it just, I say, my God, I would love to, because if there's a ministry, whereas people come in and they want to get to know the Lord and they need somebody to pray with them, to sow into them, spiritual stuff, just the label. See, when I got, I'll say, there was a bunch of ladies, about 6 or 7, if that many. And it was called Noonday Prayer. Every Wednesday, Noonday Prayer. Man, they stuck with me and they prayed with me. And one evangelist, she took up with me and wanted me to travel with her, I couldn't do it. I worked swing shift, But anyways, at that time, I was working at a plant. But anyways, I feel like I'm just a chitting and a chatting. I don't feel the Spirit of the Lord, but He's in me. And all I have to do is just talk about Him and not about things, not about situations and stuff. And he'll show up, But if I do that, I'll be here for another few hours. For another few hours. And actually, I suppose this electrician supposed to have been coming. And I said, well, let me run out to the post office, and then he said, I'll be there in about an hour. And then I'll get back before he get here. And then he called me. I left my phone in the car. And then I seen a text and they say, call me back, please. And I call and they not coming today. So that's all like messed up my day. So I got to go in here and get to work. And then I'm going to take me a long hot shower. Then I'm going to cool off with the cool water and relax for the rest of today. I already pulled out my last container of green because I don't eat all those cabbages up, you know. And I pulled out some soup last night. So I already had, and I got one little servings of my beans. And I got one serving of salad that I fixed last night. And what I was, since he put off, I went on the food line and got the sales paper so I could know what on sale. And out of avocados, I buy no more than 2 or 3 at a time because they go bad quick. I say, how in the world can they stay on all those avocados? How can they stay in that shelf, on that shelf, in there and don't turn brown? They don't, rotten. But as soon as I bring them home, and if I don't, eat them up, they, so I don't buy any more than 3 of it. I used to buy the whole bag. But now, because I was putting them in my smoothies too. But now I don't. I'm putting other things in my smoothie. So I don't know how many will listen to this, but maybe it's for someone and maybe it's not. But anyways, I've enjoyed it. And I will not end without saying, wise men and ladies too, still seek Jesus. He loves you, and so do I. I just wish everybody just knew the Lord. Just knew that he's just not like a lot of folk think he is. I just wish people knew that being worldly, living worldly, it's not of the Lord. A certain look, all of this stuff where the Bible say be modest. Now don't get me wrong. let me show you what I pulled out that I'm going to start. I got a lot of jewelry, y'all. All kinds. See that bracelet right there? This is the pin to go with it. And the earrings that go with it. I see it come Sunday. Although when I go to church, I don't, maybe not one day, I'm going to go through that closet. I got plenty cream. I got all kinds of clothes that match, I clean up pretty good now when I want to. It's just that 9 out of 10 times I don't want to. I don't care to do it. And I'm so thankful that I don't care to be married again, having, some old folk talking about this my boy. This lady older than me, 82 years old, talking about my boyfriend. I want to say, child, please, let me get off of here because I just go on and on and on and on. Now, don't get me wrong now. If somebody want to have a significant other and y'all ain't tutti fruiting and carrying on, it's okay. It's okay. You just got to watch what you do, baby. Cause hell will be full. And I'll get off of here with that. God bless you. Jesus loves you. And so do I. Till next time. Bye-bye.